Let's talk about the anatomy of the electric guitar. So again, what I want to do is I want to empower you to understand the bits and pieces about the guitar so that you can speak that language, go into a store, look online if you need a replacement nut or a replacement saddle or a tone knob or that sort of thing, okay? So let's take a look again from the top down: head, neck, body, also known as the headstock. We have our tuners, our tuning pegs. These are attached to the posts. So as we turn these, there's a gear that moves the post around, and that's going to loosen or tighten our strings. Strings on electrics are usually thinner, by the way. This is called a string tree, and you'll see them on some guitars and not on others. The idea of this is to keep the string at a certain angle hitting the post of the guitar, or the post of the tuning peg. And this is done for stability. It's done so that the string can actually wind down the post. It's done for tone, where when that is pressed down, you're going to get more tone out of the guitar, of course, because it's pressing down on the nut harder than it would be if it were just way back here. You have this, which is pulling the string down. So there is, when you really get into the science of tone, you're going to find that the more dense the parts of the guitar are and the more contact that the strings have with the instrument, the better, I'm using that in quotes, the better your tone is. And what I mean by that in quotes is that some people might think that, a thinner sound is better. But alas, that is what the string tree is for. Just like the acoustic, we have the nut, we have the frets, and they work the same way as the acoustic. We have the fret markers, so the same dots that you're seeing in front of the neck, I'm seeing here at the top of the neck. So we have that same bit there. We've got fret markers. And again, not related to any sort of music theory. It literally just tells you, hey, this is the 3rd fret or the 5th fret or the 7th fret. It makes it a lot easier to navigate than if they weren't there at all. I've had guitars that actually didn't have that on there, and it can be quite confusing, or not even confusing, because you can figure it out very quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you're just going to grab a chord very quickly or a solo or that sort of thing, you could be in the wrong key. So again, moving further up the neck, in this case with this electric, we have a bolt-on neck. Now most acoustics are actually glued on, they're not bolted on, but for most electrics now, they're bolted on, but they could also be glued on as well. Moving further up, we've got the pickups, which are different because we don't really have pickups like that in an acoustic guitar. They're usually underneath the bridge. These are single coil pickups because, again, they look like one finger as opposed to 2 fingers. If there were if the pickup was 2 fingers in size, then we're talking about a humbucker, usually. Now, there is a style of pickup called a P90, which is still a single coil, but the actual pickup itself is bigger, but you'll only see one set of pole pieces going across, so that's how you know the difference. A humbucker pickup is going to have 2 individual pickups, so it look more like this. These individual little pieces on the pickup are called the pole pieces. In this case here, this one has a cover over it, so you're not going to see it. But these individual 6 little pieces there are called the pole pieces. Now, this is the pick guard. Again, decorative, but it also prevents the guitar from getting scratched up. Some guitars have them, some guitars don't. This is the strap button or strap peg, and you'll find them for most electrics, you'll find them on both sides, as opposed to an acoustic where you could have the guitar strap going over here to the neck and then tying it with a shoelace. A shoelace. That's the old style way to do it, and that's why sometimes you don't see it on the acoustic. But on the electric, you almost always see them. Now moving over here, we have the bridge. On this particular guitar, a Telecaster, some people would call this the ashtray because it looks like an old school ashtray, but it is the bridge, and it's secured to the top of the guitar with screws, which gives it that nice resonation again. So the more contact that we have with the body of the guitar, the more that electric guitar is going to resonate. These are called the saddles, and they're different on different guitars. So on one guitar, you might just find that on the acoustic that we looked at before, it was just a straight bridge, and you couldn't adjust the individual strings. On a Telecaster, you have 3 screws here, and so you can adjust strings 1 and 2 at once. And then strings 3 and 4 at once, and then 5 and 6 at once together. So if I move 6 back, 5 is going to move as well. Whereas some electric guitars have individual saddles, and some of them just have straight bridge there. You kind of get what you get. It's like buying a car. If you have a car that has electric locks, then good for you. You can use electric locks. If not, you can't use electric locks. It's just how they built that particular car, and in this case, the guitar. So you get what you get. You can change things out, but then you're changing, in this case here, a vintage instrument, which I'm not going to do because it would devalue the instrument. Here is the pickup selector. This is going to be different on different guitars. So you might find one guitar having 1 pickup. I have several guitars that just have 1 pickup. I have others that have 2, and I have others that have 3. And so when you see a pickup selector, that means you're going to have more than 1 pickup. Unless this switch is used for something else, which it rarely is. In this case here, if I have this to the far right, then it's going to pick the far right pickup, or the bridge pickup. If I move it to the middle, now we're playing both pickups. And if I move it to the far left, then it's going to be the neck pickup. And that's what we call it, the bridge pickup or the neck pickup. Some people might call it rhythm and lead, like as you'll see on a Les Paul. But for the most part, you could play lead here and rhythm here, so that's why that one probably didn't catch on too well. Makes more sense because this is the bridge and this is the neck, so we call them the bridge and neck pickups. Depends on the guitar, but you're almost always going to have a volume pickup or a volume knob, also known as a pot or a potentiometer. That's the actual name, so for short we call it a pot. So this is the volume pot, and this is the tone pot. And so in the case of volume, it's going to affect the loudness of the instrument, and in the case of the tone knob, it's going to affect the tone. So if I'm speaking very bright or I'm speaking very dark, in the way that I'm putting that sound in my throat, this does the same thing. It either makes it brighter sounding or it makes it darker sounding, okay? And it depends on the instrument. So you would find, for instance, on a Stratocaster, you would find 3 knobs. On a Les Paul, you'll find 4 knobs. So you'll have 2 for 2 pickups or 3 pickups. You know, again, a Les Paul sometimes has 2 pickups, sometimes it has 1, sometimes it has 3. But in the case of the 2 pickups, you've got 2 volumes and 2 tone knobs. And for the one with 3, you've got 2 volumes and 2 tone knobs, but they work differently. So again, we're not going to drill down to the real specifics yet because it's going to be different for every guitar, even from Telecaster to Telecaster. Sometimes that can change. And so in this case here, more information is probably going to confuse you because it's going to be different per guitar. Now, that gives you the basic idea or the basic overview of the guitar. Sometimes, you know, you might find a whammy bar. It just depends. So this is just like a brief overview. But again, as we delve into you know, using a whammy bar or something like that, then we will address that at that time. But for the most part here, that's going to give you the basic overview so that you can talk intelligently with other guitar players, guitar luthiers, and know that if you need to purchase a new saddle, you'll know exactly what that is. Let's keep going.